want to say hello to everyone who came tonight. I see old friends, new friends, you're all friends. It was incredible to come back. We just returned from California. And I know it's been hard for all of you. I know this has been a strange and harsh winter. And we worried about you. We watched the weather forecast from New York every night, and we held our heads. We said, oh my goodness, what's happened to our friends? But I see that you even have rosy cheeks. You look quite well. But I must tell you, coming onto the grounds today for the first time, we were absolutely taken back by the sheer beauty of the snow and the ice and the trees. In New York, everything's dirty and black and muddy, so you can't appreciate this display of nature. And I guess you're so tired of seeing it, you don't even see it anymore. But it's just splendid out there. And it's healthy too. And I don't think there's any snow in the forecast, so we should rejoice about that. I asked Annapurna how many hours she shoveled snow. She said, no, I did not do that. I did not go out. So, but very good to have Dr. and Mrs. Sharma here, special treat. Yes? He went by the snow, Dr. Sharma. You are the wise one. But you don't go out. I'm not so sure about you, Dr. Sharma. I know how old you are, I know how old Ahmed is. So I think it's a miracle, how healthy and young people in their 80s and 90s who have been meditating all their lives look and feel and act. It's really a credit to both of you that you're so young. And you, Dharmadev, I'm not leaving you out. I know what I want to do next. It's been my tradition, although this program is especially for Guruji, in honor of Guruji. You'll hear why it's so special in a minute. But I usually take a statement of Sri Brahmananda and delve into it, so we don't just hear it as words, we feel it as truth. Because gurus who are enlightened, whatever part of the world they come from, any enlightened being cannot help but speak truth. Even if they're on a worldly level, they are speaking truth behind it. And this is what Guruji says in his usual honesty and directness. The only difference between the Guru and ourselves is that the Guru remains detached from individual life, whereas the ordinary individual remains the victim of karmas, past behavior, and is therefore attached to his body, mind, and senses. Listen again. He says the only difference between the Guru, between the enlightened Master, and ourselves is that the Guru remains detached from the operation of individual life. Anything can happen. Anything can go on. And the Guru says, well, we'll see. We'll see what this means. We'll see where this leads to. They never become ruffled or frightened or confused. They become sad sometimes. We had seen that in our Guru when the tsunamis or the earthquakes or the tidal waves brought down thousands of people in India when they occurred. He'd be very sad. Whole day we would see he was feeling the effects of that suffering. But if catastrophes happen to him, calamities, he had heart attacks and a massive stroke, it helped us so much who became frightened when that occurred. It helped us. He couldn't speak after his stroke, but he was saying it's all right. In fact, he was indicating it was interesting what was going on. He was a neurosurgeon, so he was actually observing what was happening to his brain as a result of the stroke. And later he told us, when he could speak a little bit and communicate, he said, it was interesting. All nonsense was dropped after stroke, and only important knowledge remained. This is much better. Enlightened people look at happenings in a different way. They feel everything is part of the process, the totality of their entire life. Great teaching for us to realize that a massive stroke had made absolutely no difference in his power, in his joy, in his humor, in his energy. Affected his body, no doubt, but even his body became a study for this neurologist and psychiatrist and psychologist who was a medical doctor. His background was in psychiatry and psychology, but he was fascinated seeing the changes in his brain, seeing the changes in the way he viewed life and people, and we move with that. And later, after he left his physical body, that became one of the greatest teachings we had. That he lived these teachings. He didn't just talk about these teachings. He talked the talk and walked the walk. He was that kind of guru. So I'm asking you, I won't take too long with this because the rest of the program happened magically, and I think you're going to enjoy it. I do whenever I tell certain stories, so you'll see. But what does he mean when he says, the guru remains detached from the operation of individual life? That means he just watches it, just watches the happenings unfold. Today, many people spoke to me and told me how difficult the weather was, but also the ramifications, how it affected family life and decisions. It's been hard all year round for people. Whenever things are in a turmoil this way and so much change is going on, it affects our whole outlook. So here he's saying, the guru, no matter what goes on, remains a little apart, as if he's watching a film unrolled before his eyes. But we, the ordinary individual, remains the victim of karmas and is therefore attached to his body, mind, and senses. How does being a victim of karma result in our being attached to the body, mind, and senses? Anybody have a thought? The Guru had a stroke, he had 5 heart attacks. He said, this was the gift, the final gift of my teacher. Ram Das said this was fierce grace when he had a stroke. What allows them to talk like that? Sounds to ordinary people, that sounds crazy talk. That you have a stroke and you say, this was the best gift of my teacher. Because it allows them to break, to be removed from being a victim of karmas. What happens to us that we can be detached to our body, mind, and senses when we get old, when we become ill? What has to happen so that we can react like the Guru? I don't want us to have strokes, I really do not. But when any calamity strikes, how wonderful it would be if we could say, fierce grace, what will happen now? What's next? This is too much. This is too much drama for me. And not be thrown by it. Just to watch what happens. That's what these gurus do. Most of the gurus, Sri Brahmananda pointed out, Swami Shivananda, Krishnamurti, Ramakrishna, Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, they had very bad illnesses at the end. A number of them stricken with cancer, but they didn't stop talking. They didn't stop working, relating, laughing, enjoying, although the body was in difficulty. In order to remain detached from the operation of individual life, so that when things happen to us, we do not suffer. That's the point. There's something we can do so that when calamity strikes, and it will, if it could happen even to the gurus, that's the point. It can certainly happen to us. How can we remain free of the suffering and therefore be detached from the body, mind, and senses? What must we realize? I'm putting the words right in your mouth. Mercedes, as usual, she sits up here to tell me the answer, in case I don't know it. Mercedes says, we have to realize that we are not the body, not the senses, not the mind. And if we are not, then we take care of those entities as best as we can. But there's no suffering involved. It's like taking care of a car. Dharmadev and I always had old cars. They were always breaking down. And we took care of them, but we didn't suffer all day long because our car was in the gas station being repaired. We didn't say all day long to people, oh, my car's in the gas station. It's being repaired, I don't know if it's going to make it. We're told to regard the body like that. Something we need, something we have to take care of. But we take it to the proper place, to the doctor when it's physically ill, I was going to say to a therapist when it's mentally ill, maybe we do, but when it's emotionally disturbed, we know as yogis, taught by great teachers, to go into the state of meditation, where time and space are transcended, where name and form and all this identification are transcended. We are really all-powerful. There is no reason, understanding this, to remain attached to the body, mind, and senses, and therefore bring on suffering to our lives. We can't stop certain karmas that are part of the law of cause and effect. They will come around. But if they disturb only the body, and we are transcending the body, knowing that's not what we are, that suffering can be eliminated from this moment on. How many of you, at least, how many of us understand that? Do you understand it? Okay. Then next is to apply it. And the way we were told to apply it is to learn the witnessing process. To learn to be a witness instead of a judge. You cannot be a witness and a judge at the same time. A witness only sees. It doesn't see good or bad or right or wrong. It sees. And if we're in our witnessing form, the witnessing eye, you cannot be thinking, dwelling, projecting at the same time. So we were told early on that witnessing is the first approach to meditation. Becoming the witness opens the gate to meditation. Witnessing the thoughts, witnessing sensations. If you get me started on witnessing, that will be the whole program this evening, and I don't want to do that. As long as we know that we should start practicing as much as possible the art of witnessing, included in our meditation. Begin with the witnessing, and then you dissolve into your natural state of meditation, which is a state of pure awareness, effortless awareness. It always sounds like my cue. Okay, that's ended. Thank you. Who's doing that? That's very helpful. Now, let me tell you. Destiny changed the program for tonight. We were destined to return from California on JetBlue Monday night. On the weekend, we received an email that JetBlue, because of the New York weather forecast, which was going to be for another snowstorm, JetBlue was canceling our flight and rebooking us for Wednesday night. Now, we had carefully planned to be back in New York so we could kind of easily flow into the New York rhythm again, to be in the New York state of mind, or the Ananda Ashram state of mind. Coming back Wednesday night, and Thursday we had to unpack and take care of things. So all I had was Friday, yesterday. And so I did my usual thing. I went to my bookcase, I pulled out this book, that book. Nothing seemed the right program. Nothing at all. So I decided to meditate and ask, what should the program be? And suddenly the thought came that for years, on the occasion of Sri Brahmananda's teacher's birthday, Sri Bhagavandas, Guruji told stories of the magic of Sri Bhagavandas. He absolutely enchanted us with those stories. Some of which, I think many of which, are in that remarkable book, Pulsation of Godhood, which is a transcript of 2 talks that Guruji gave on his teacher's birthday. And I said, I bet the people would love to hear stories about Sri Brahmananda's magic. Would you? Yeah. So I think we should set a new tradition, that not only should we tell on Sri Bhagavanda's birthday about his magic, since Guruji said in 1985 that Sri Bhagavandas had transferred all his magic to Guruji, all his powers, we can expect that Guruji had some of his own before that, but had even more after that transference. So tonight, I'm going to talk off the top of my heart, not head, about some of the magic. Some. I came up with 17 incidents that I had personally witnessed a lot. I'll tell you why there were so many. Mainly because I was so skeptical, so suspicious of Guruji when I first met him. I just could not believe that this was real and that he wasn't just putting on some kind of incredible performance. So he knew this, and every now and then, when he had an opportunity, something would happen that would jar my skepticism. This is how it began, that I was around so much in the early days. I had been brought to the programs by a wonderful fellow, Jack Adams, whom many people knew as Merlin the Magician. He was a magician for children. His last show was at Radio City Music Hall. He was that good. and he was a friend of ours, and he called one night and introduced me to Guruji's lectures and programs. And so I would go and sit in the rear and try to hide so that he wouldn't notice me, but I was having a hard time understanding, coming from what I thought was no place to all these high teachings, but I felt something magnetic and powerful in Sri Brahmananda, Dr. Mishra. Then one day, Jack called me and said that he had to perform somewhere, and would I drive Dr. Mishra to Chinatown? And I said, in my Volkswagen, is that all right? He said, yeah. He likes Volkswagens. He likes to drive, in fact, but don't let him. Don't let him drive. I said, I won't. But I picked him up and drove him to Chinatown and parked just so that he could shop and come back. And then I think I must have driven back to, to his place. He lived on Riverside Drive. 74. He also stopped to get some toys for the children who visited. It was that kind of a trip. Well, Jack, it turned out, could no longer drive him. Strange. And Sri Brahmananda, Dr. Mishra said, you are not working during the day, you drive. He didn't ask, you drive. You seem very good driver. I said, all right, whenever I'm free, I'll drive. Well, he called me a lot because once he had a driver, he was going everywhere. This story that I'm telling you tonight is the first of the magical stories. I hope it doesn't take too long. But it was my first taste of what it's like to be with someone who is on another dimension altogether. He called and said, do you know where Providence is? I said, Rhode Island? Yes, I think Rhode Island. I need to go. You can come? I said, when? Now. You come now. He said, I need you now. As if, he couldn't have given me a little more notice. Of course he needs me now. So I called Martin, who was working, and I said, how far away is Providence? He said, it's about 3.5, 4 hours. I said, oh, okay. And Mark gave me some directions. I took a map, I looked at it. I went to pick up Dr. Mishra. This is very important, so listen carefully. He was packing, mainly books. Books, I didn't see anything but books going into his bag. Heavy bag. Books, 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 books. And he said, you get this, 1 apple, you get 1 banana, and you come. So I went in the kitchen, and by the time I came back, he was just zipping up this nylon bag. And I said, Dr. Mishra, we called him Dr. G. I said, you have the address? And he went like this, like that. And, okay. So we go in the car, and we drive, and I get to Providence, and I say to Guruji, what is the address, Guruji? Address? I do not have address. You're a driver. Driver has address. I said, Dr. Mishra, I was in a panic. I said, Dr. Mishra, I asked you if you had, I was mad. I asked you if you had the address. And you said, just go get the apple and banana. He said, no. I said, you get. This means you get. This means you get. I said, where was I supposed to get it? He said, so you do not have address. You are absolutely useless to me. And by that time I was useless. I was in it's Providence. I had no address. He had no address. I said, do you know the last name? Laura, her name is. Laura. Is that her last name? Hopefully. No, I do not know. You are driving. You should have gotten information. He said, look at time. We are due there in 15 minutes. I said, well, I don't know what to do. He looked like he was going to explode. So I said, well, maybe I can calm him down a little. Maybe the address is in his pocket. I didn't know. So I said, you know, Dr. G, you spoke the other night about how everything is a dream and we have to treat everything as a dream. He said, yes, I said that, but you are making it a nightmare. You have to remember Yul Brynner in The King and I. That's what I was dealing with. So by then I felt upset with him, angry that I had been so careless. I should have made sure, and totally powerless. When he said, all right, patted me on the shoulder. You just drive, I will tell you. I said, but have you been there? He said, never. I said, you've never been there, but you'll tell me, and you don't know the address. He said, no. He said, you drive. So I was driving straight, I didn't turn. Then he said, turn right. I said, okay, turn right. Drove a little more, and he said, left, left, left. I went left, I went left, I went left. He said, but very near. Turn right. Stop. This is house. He'd never been there. He didn't have the address. And we were there. So not only, there's not the end of the story, it gets small. Not only had the trip lasted by then 4 hours, but the tension in Guruji and myself was so evident, I didn't know how we were going to get through the night. We go into the house, and they were waiting for us, we were late. And the hostess, Laura Urquhart, I found out her name was, came forward and said, this is the buffet that we have prepared, so we know you must be hungry, but we know you probably don't want to eat until after the program. I did, but he didn't. So she said, it will be right there. And all that food was there, beautifully prepared, and the aromas were coming. And Guruji said, take paper, John Saval, you read now. As soon as we got in. So I took a breath, and it was a wonderful paper, based on the Gita, I believe. And the people were thrilled. The program was about an hour and a half, then questions, and meanwhile, it was starting to take its toll. Not on him, on me. He was becoming more energized. But finally, we were ready to have something to eat, and she says, please, we are preparing a plate for you. And Guruji says, I will not eat, and she will not eat. We have apple and banana in the car. And she said, well, don't you want to know where you're sleeping? We've arranged for you to have your own house, Guruji, so you can be alone. And Joan is going to go to Mrs. So-and-so. Said, no, thank you so much, she says. We are leaving right now. Going back to New York. with an apple and a banana. So this is what happened. I go into the car, I open the door for him. He goes into the car. I go into the car in the front. He's in the back. He said, I want to be in the back. I'm in the front, and my eyes are starting to drop, And I try to open them, but I'm in an exhausted state. It's now 6.5 hours since I picked him up, and nothing to eat, and I wasn't accustomed to driving so long. That would be 8, 9, 10, 11 hours straight with no rest. So I turned around to ask Guruji to please take us out again to get to, I think it's 684, some road, the major highway. And guess what? I turn around and he's laid, stretched out, and he's sleeping. I mean, not sleeping, but resting. I said, Guruji, you taking a rest? Yes, it's a very long time. All right, Dr. Mishu, how should I go? He said, I will tell. It's this way. You go, you make a right, you change right. Went on, got us to the main highway. And then, as soon as I was on this straight highway, he sat up and began to chant. I wasn't chanting with him, I didn't know Sanskrit. But that chanting was like the gasoline in the car. I suddenly lost all tiredness. I didn't have to force my eyes open. Whatever he was transmitting was going directly into my body. So that he was driving the car, really. Not only did he know where he was going, but he was driving the car. Because that could not have been, that was my body, but it was not my energy. Arrived home, it was about 2 in the morning.
Oh, God.
At 2 in the morning when I dropped him off. And Marv thought that I was sleeping there, so he went to bed. It never occurred to him that we would drive there, off of the program, and turn around and come back. So the only thing that explained what happened is that he could transmit his energy, his knowledge, how he knew where we were going. I have other stories to tell where he located people in trouble who did not tell him where they were. I was the driver, so those stories came because I had to drive him where he was needed, and the stories were remarkable. Okay, it's 5 after. I have 17 of them, I can tell. I'm trying to think. I know which one, because it'll cheer you up. There was a wonderful elderly European lady who had a very strong personality, and she did not like the way things were run in the kitchen. She had come a few weekends and did not feel that things were organized properly. So she told Guruji she wanted to come for a while, be at the ashram, and organize the kitchen. Annapurna, good idea. She was coming to straighten out the kitchen. And when she came, everybody listened to her. They called her the Major General in the kitchen because she's a very powerful, strong lady. And she was about, I think, about 65, 70 maybe. A very powerful lady. I think she stayed a while, and then she had a daughter who was an artist, I believe, living in Paris. Her children wanted her to visit and stay, and a son and a daughter. But word came by telephone one day that she had become suddenly, dangerously ill, was in a hospital. Her name was Ada, was in a hospital and in a coma. She'd been in a coma several days. So they asked to give the message to Guruji because they felt their mother would want that, but that he should not come. He should not visit because it's better that he meditate and say prayers. This came from the son, not the daughter. So, next thing I knew, Jansabal, we are going to hospital in New York City. You pick me up and you take me. And I don't want to mention who came with us because I'm not sure I should mention the name, although that person was a great help, but private. So, but one person from the ashram did come and sit in the back of the car to watch the car, Guruji said, when we go up to the room to see Ada. And I said, Guruji, she's in intensive care, and her son said not to come. He didn't say anything. Guruji didn't say anything. So I said, well, here's another one of those challenging times ahead. Well, I parked the car. It wasn't a regular parking place, but Guruji said it will be all right. We will leave her in the back, and she will or sit in the front and take care of her. So this is the scene. This was a major hospital. I don't remember which one. Might have been Beth Israel, large hospital. We went in together. I went in first because I wanted to get the room number, and Guruji was a little behind me. I went to the desk and I said, I'd like the number for Ada, whatever her name was. And she looked and she said, she's in intensive care. We cannot give that information out. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Guruji racing up a flight of steps. So I said, thank you very much. And I went racing after him, which was an exercise in futility because he was flying up those steps. I just kept seeing another flight, another flight, another flight. Must have been 4 or 5 flights. Just seeing the white pants disappearing around the corner. And I'm out of breath. I run after him. He's heading right down to the right and to the left, as if he knows exactly, and he did, where to find Ada. And standing in front of her room is the son. The son, this son seemed to me about 6'5", a huge fellow, very young and strong looking. Guruji, although we always thought of Guruji as the tallest and the most powerful, Guruji was about 5'6", 5'7". And what he did, he was in a hurry, and the fellow standing in front of the door, he heard from the desk that somebody was coming up, 2 people, so he was ready. And he just stood, blocked the door, and Guruji took his shoulder and moved him out of the way. Just moved him out of the way. I remember what he said. And went into the room. And there's Ada in a deep coma. It had been more than a couple of days. She was in a very deep coma. Guruji pulls up a chair and he tells me to stand on the other side of the bed. He pulls up a chair and he says, Ada, where are you? She doesn't move. Ada! You're leaving with no goodbye? Ada. Nothing. Ada, it's too soon. This is not your time, Ada. And with that, I can't move it. With that, he takes his hand and smacks her on her chest and says, Om Namah Shivaya, Ada. Nothing. Om Namah Shivaya. Nothing. One more time. And from Ada comes, Om Namah Shivaya, Guruji. And her son is watching from the door, and those two children of hers loved their mother. But the son, I never found out why, was angry at Guruji. Angry before that happened to his mother. Might have been the fact that Ada didn't want to leave the States and live in Europe where the daughter was. Something was bad between them. But Ada didn't sit up, but Guruji said, Ada, you should say goodbye when you're leaving. She said, Om Namah Shivaya, Guruji. She felt bad. He said, you will be quite all right. You will come to ashram again. And she was all right, I think, for a number of years, right? A number of years, and she went to Paris. But I still have that vision of Guruji flying up the stairs, knowing exactly where he was going. Guruji was a scholar, a scientist, a neurosurgeon, a mystic, and he emphasized that we're all capable of having these magical powers. Every one of us. It's just a question of freeing them, allowing them to operate. And he never flaunted these powers. He only used them when absolutely necessary. I was just happy that Jack Adams had asked me to be his driver. Because those things happened between 1963 and 1966. 1966, Guruji went on a very long tour, which was supposed to last only 1 year. It lasted 5.5 years. He didn't come back, and we were struggling to keep this place open, which was his doing, of course. It not only was open, it thrived. But when he came back, he had lots of drivers, lots of secretaries. So I knew that that period had been arranged for my training. And so that I would have these stories to tell you. So you would know him as we knew him, as a magical man. He called his own teacher a magical man. So I hope you caught some of this fragrance tonight, so you know you're sitting in a magical place. Because the home of a magical man has to be magical, right? And some of that magic dust was spread around tonight. You're now going to be treated along with me after we have a 2-minute meditation to a slideshow that Surat has put together. It's 10 minutes or so, and you will have a better feeling as you see these photos of Sri Brahmananda, all the million faces of Sri Brahmananda. You'll have a better understanding of the love that was in this man to create this ashram for all of us. He didn't live too many years to enjoy it. He's enjoying through us. So please close your eyes just for 2 minutes. And all I'll ask you to do is take a deep breath, breathe deeply, and release. And just for 2 minutes, step aside as a witness from your body. Step out of your body as a witness, so you can watch your body and see how your body has responded to these tales of magic. Because at some time, Guruji has stated, you were there. Some lifetime before, you were also there to witness with your own eyes the magic of your Guru. The cells remember. Watch them dance. Watch them pulsate. Feel. Karuna, would you lead us in our traditional prayer? I forgot to add that after I dropped him off from our trip back from Providence, he did pat me on the head and tell me I was a wonderful driver and I had given him excellent service. So, just that he was upset before because he had to go into an entirely different form to find out where Laura lived. So just talking about it makes me cry. Such an amazing man.